In May 1998, Chrysler and Daimler-Benz announced the merger of equals, a $36 billion deal that promised to reshape the auto world. On paper, it was perfect. American toughness meets German precision. Wall Street loved it, champagne flowed, and the future looked bright. But behind the scenes, clashing cultures ignited a corporate war no merger magic could fix. What started as a dream quickly turned into the industry's most spectacular disaster. This is the story nobody wants to tell you, the merger that wasn't a merger at all. Stay tuned, because we're diving deep into the deal that promised the world but delivered disaster. The predator and the prey. The boardroom fell silent as Kerkorian's latest takeover attempt landed on Chairman Bob Eaton's desk. While the merger announcement dazzled investors, few knew the real crisis unfolding behind Chrysler's closed doors. Billionaire investor Kerkorian, who already owned 13% of Chrysler, had been aggressively attempting to gain control of the company, sending shockwaves through executive leadership. In the previous year, Kerkorian had partnered with former Chrysler chairman Lee Iacocca in a $33 per share takeover bid. Though rejected, the threat remained. Kerkorian's Trinxinda Corporation continued accumulating shares while criticizing Chrysler's leadership. In a panic, Eaton desperately sought a white knight, and Daimler-Benz seemed the perfect savior. What makes this decision even more stunning is that Chrysler wasn't struggling. It was thriving. The American automaker was generating $1 billion in quarterly profits, with $12 billion in cash reserves. Its Jeep, Grand Cherokee, Ram trucks, and minivans dominated their segments, and the company had just unveiled its innovative new LH sedans. Former Chief Executive Officer Lee Iacocca, who had famously rescued Chrysler from the brink of bankruptcy in the 1980s, later delivered a blistering assessment. Eaton panicked. He sold Chrysler when we should have bought them. The industry legend noted that with Chrysler's cash reserves and earnings power, they could have considered acquiring Daimler instead. This hasty decision to escape Kerkorian's clutches would soon unleash a cascade of consequences that would reshape the global automotive landscape. The shocking truth, this wasn't a strategic necessity. It was a frightened prey leaping directly into the jaws of its predator. Meanwhile, Eaton himself received a $30 million payout from the deal, a golden parachute, as the company he led headed toward turbulence. While Eaton celebrated his escape from Kerkorian, Schrempp was setting a different agenda in Stuttgart, the Schrempp deception. Just when shareholders thought they understood the deal, Daimler Chief Executive Officer Jürgen Schrempp revealed his true intentions. After 2 years of publicly calling this a merger of equals, Schrempp casually admitted to the Financial Times that this characterization was merely a PR device. The merger had always been planned as a German takeover. If I had gone and said Chrysler would be a division, everybody on their side would have said, "There is no way we'll do a deal." Schrempp confessed in the October 2000 interview, "The structure we have now with Chrysler as a division was always the structure I wanted." This shocking confession destroyed whatever trust remained between the American and German teams. Chrysler executives, who had believed they were entering a partnership of mutual respect, suddenly realized they'd been pawns in a German acquisition strategy all along. The promised merged supervisory board never materialized. The supposed dual headquarters structure quickly gave way to Stuttgart-based decision-making. As one insider remarked, "How do you properly pronounce Daimler Chrysler? The Chrysler is silent." What began as dark humor among Chrysler employees became an accurate description of corporate reality. This corporate duplicity didn't just damage morale, it fundamentally undermined the integration process. The revelation triggered shareholder lawsuits, including a $3 billion claim by Chrysler's largest pre-merger investor, Kerkorian himself. He alleged securities fraud, claiming Daimler-Benz had misrepresented the nature of the transaction to avoid paying Chrysler shareholders an appropriate acquisition premium. The legal battles would drain resources and executive attention for years, creating a climate of suspicion that poisoned every subsequent decision. The cultural fault lines that had been forming since day one now cracked wide open. The strategic deception soon manifested in daily operational conflicts. We dug deep into the Daimler-Chrysler merger to uncover the truth behind one of the auto industry's biggest disasters, cutting through decades of corporate spin and getting straight to the facts. Now you have the full story, how one bad decision reshaped the entire automotive landscape. If you appreciate this kind of deep dive, consider subscribing. It really helps us keep bringing you stories like this. Engineer Dave Richards sat stunned across from his German counterpart, caught in a clash deeper than language, a battle of corporate cultures. In Stuttgart, German executives thrived on meticulous processes, rigid hierarchies, and exhaustive documentation. Meetings followed strict protocols, every detail recorded. Meanwhile, Chrysler's team in Auburn Hills, Michigan, prized adaptability, quick decision-making, and flatter structures. This divide led to frustrating, sometimes absurd encounters. In one meeting, an American executive raised a new issue, only to be told it's already in the protocol. Bewildered, he asked, "What protocol?" What Germans saw as essential bureaucracy, Americans dismissed as red tape. The gulf was more than communication. It was conflicting philosophies. Germans demanded engineering perfection, regardless of cost. Americans aimed for cost-effective, market-driven solutions. When Mercedes engineers learned a Chrysler 300M seat cost a fraction of their E-Class seat, they were shocked. One designer recalled, "Our engineers thought Chrysler's standards were madness." Chrysler's team saw high cost as waste. Mercedes saw it as quality. This fundamental mismatch undercut trust and collaboration. Physical distance worsened tensions. With 8 time zones apart, conference calls happened at odd hours. Germans expected Americans to adopt their meticulous style. Americans wanted quicker action. Neither side budged. The merger of equals ended up as 2 incompatible systems trying to run one company. The resulting paralysis came at the worst time, as the auto industry faced historic challenges. As frustration grew, Chrysler's best talent started leaving, signaling the deep fractures beneath the merger's surface. The Innovator Exodus, the resignation letter, landed on the desk with a startling finality. Within months of the merger's completion, a mass exodus of Chrysler's top talent began. The very innovators who had rescued the company from previous near bankruptcies. These weren't just any executives. They were the visionaries who had created the minivan, revolutionized truck design, and developed the profitable Jeep Grand Cherokee line. Thomas Stallkamp, Chrysler's respected president and architect of its industry-leading supplier relations program, was forced out in September 1999, barely a year after the merger. His departure sent shockwaves through the organization. By early 2000, more than 20 senior executives had departed, taking decades of institutional knowledge with them. "We didn't leave because of money. We left because our ability to innovate was being suffocated by layers of German bureaucracy," explained a former Chrysler engineering director. The creative culture that had made Chrysler the most profitable American automaker was systematically dismantled, replaced with a rigid command structure unfamiliar with American market dynamics. The leadership vacuum created by this talent drain would prove catastrophic. The executives who had mastered Chrysler's cyclical market and understood American consumer preferences were replaced by German managers unfamiliar with United States buying patterns. Decisions that once took days now required months of approval from Stuttgart. Product development timelines stretched as each decision required German validation. The Auburn Hills headquarters, once buzzing with creative energy, grew increasingly quiet as more offices emptied. Farewell parties became commonplace. Those who remained watched helplessly as their autonomy diminished. The innovative spirit that had made Chrysler successful was dying a slow death by bureaucracy. With the innovation team gone, financial performance didn't take long to collapse. The Wall Street massacre. The quarterly report triggered panic selling across trading floors worldwide. In a stunning reversal of fortune, Chrysler transformed from Daimler's crown jewel to its heaviest anchor. By 2000, just 2 years after the merger, Chrysler swung from generating billions in profits to posting catastrophic losses. The third quarter alone saw losses exceeding $500 million, with even grimmer projections ahead. The stock price that had soared above $108 after the merger collapsed to $38 by November 2000, erasing tens of billions in shareholder value. Financial analysts who had championed the merger now issued scathing reassessments. "This was supposed to be a marriage made in heaven, but it's turned into a financial nightmare," declared automotive analyst Marianne Keller. The synergies promised have failed to materialize, while the clash of cultures has devastated operations. Panicked German executives initiated brutal cost-cutting measures, slashing 26,000 American jobs and shuttering plants. Workers who had believed the merger would secure their future now found themselves unemployed. Communities built around Chrysler factories faced economic devastation. But these desperate measures couldn't stop the hemorrhaging. Even more troubling, the financial contagion began spreading to Mercedes. In their obsessive focus on fixing Chrysler, Daimler executives neglected their premium brand, leading to quality issues that tarnished Mercedes's sterling reputation. The Smart Car initiative drained additional billions in losses. The financial disaster reached such proportions that by 2006, Daimler's market capitalization had fallen to $38 billion, less than Daimler alone was worth before acquiring Chrysler for $36 billion. Institutional investors began demanding accountability for what was rapidly becoming one of corporate history's most expensive miscalculations. The financial bleeding had a visible manifestation on dealer showrooms. The Nitro Effect. Automotive journalist Mark Wilson climbed into the newly released Dodge Nitro and grimaced. As financial pressures mounted, product development suffered catastrophically. The promised synergies, combining German engineering excellence with American market savvy, never materialized. Instead, consumers got the worst of both worlds. Vehicles with compromised quality that failed to excite the marketplace. Models like the Dodge Nitro and Jeep Compass became embarrassing symbols of the merger's failure, neither embodying Mercedes' quality nor Chrysler's value proposition. The Nitro, with its uninspired design and mediocre performance, received scathing reviews. "This isn't just a disappointing vehicle," wrote Wilson in his assessment. "It's the physical manifestation of the merger's failure." Even more damaging was the product pipeline delay. Pre-merger Chrysler had been preparing to invest its $12 billion cash reserve in next-generation vehicles. That investment never happened. Instead, those funds vanished into Daimler's operations, leaving Chrysler with an aging product line facing increasingly sophisticated Japanese competition. By 2006, despite desperately launching 10 new models, Chrysler lost its position as America's third-largest automaker to Toyota. The company that had once pioneered the minivan and reinvented the American truck now found itself producing forgettable vehicles that neither impressed critics nor attracted buyers. Product development budgets were slashed, resulting in corners cut on everything from interior materials to powertrain refinement. The product disasters revealed a deeper strategic failure in the merger's early days. The two-year vacuum. The Stuttgart executives stared at the deteriorating sales figures, finally understanding the magnitude of their strategic error. In a catastrophic miscalculation, German executives initially stayed away from Detroit operations, fearing they'd be perceived as heavy-handed colonizers. This hands-off approach created a deadly two-year leadership vacuum, during which Chrysler's underlying problems festered and multiplied unchecked. By the time Stuttgart finally recognized the severity of the situation, the American operation was in free fall. Dieter Zetsche, dispatched to save the American division, heroically implemented restructuring efforts that temporarily stabilized Chrysler by 2006. But this success came at a devastating cost. While Zetsche focused on the American patient, Mercedes itself began showing symptoms of neglect, with quality issues and market share erosion in its core luxury segments. The Smart Car initiative drained additional billions in losses. Even Germany's Auto Bild magazine, long a champion of domestic manufacturers, began questioning Mercedes' quality, publishing an article titled "The Troubling Fall of Mercedes." In trying not to appear colonial, they created a leadership desert that lasted 2 critical years, observed one automotive industry consultant. By the time they recognized the problem, the damage was irreversible. This tragic strategic paralysis revealed the fundamental impossibility of Daimler's position. They couldn't effectively manage both operations simultaneously, yet neither could they afford to neglect either division. Even the most brilliant operational execution couldn't overcome this fundamental strategic flaw baked into the merger's very DNA. The conglomerate had created a corporate catch-22 that would ultimately force an unprecedented retreat from their American adventure. After years of failed interventions, Daimler finally reached its breaking point. The fire sale. The financial headlines shocked the automotive world. By early 2007, Daimler's new chief executive officer, Dieter Zetsche, the very man who had stabilized Chrysler, made a stunning announcement. After less than a decade, Daimler would sell Chrysler to Cerberus Capital Management, a private equity firm with no automotive experience. The price tag? A mere $7.4 billion, less than 20% of what Daimler had paid in 1998. Even more shockingly, Daimler would only receive $5 billion of this amount, with the rest going directly to Chrysler's operations. This wasn't just a sale, it was a desperate abandonment of a sinking ship. The financial carnage was staggering. Daimler had effectively destroyed $30 billion in value in just 9 years, over $3 billion annually in wealth evaporation. As automotive industry analyst Marianne Keller observed, this ranks as one of the most disastrous mergers in business history. The remarkable irony? When questioned about the seemingly low price, Zetsche defended it as the best solution for Daimler-Chrysler shareholders. Yet those same shareholders had seen their investment evaporate under Daimler's stewardship. Wall Street analysts who had once championed the merger now scrambled to distance themselves from their earlier endorsements, creating a crisis of confidence that would haunt the financial sector's credibility for years to come. As Daimler retreated, a new and even less prepared owner stepped forward: the private equity experiment. The Cerberus executives swept into Auburn Hills with a financial playbook that had worked in countless other industries. Cerberus, with no automotive experience, purchased Chrysler at the worst possible moment, just before the 2008 financial crisis devastated the American economy and collapsed auto sales. By April 2009, despite receiving $4 billion in government bailout funds, Chrysler filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. The company that had survived the Great Depression, 2 world wars, and the 1970s oil crisis had finally been brought to its knees. Steven Feinberg, Cerberus's founder, had initially boasted that his firm would bring financial discipline to the struggling automaker. Instead, his team discovered what automotive veterans had long known: manufacturing cars requires specialized knowledge that financial engineering cannot replace. Suppliers refused to extend traditional payment terms to the private equity-owned company, draining precious cash flow. Dealerships, already skeptical of Chrysler's future, reduced inventories and diverted customers to competing brands. The human toll was equally devastating. Tens of thousands of workers lost their jobs as plants closed across the country. Communities built around Chrysler manufacturing facilities collapsed as the economic anchor that had sustained generations suddenly disappeared. The bankruptcy filing wasn't just a business failure. It represented the near-death experience of an American industrial icon. Yet from the depths of crisis, an unexpected lifeline would emerge. From the depths of bankruptcy, an unlikely European savior appeared: Marchionne's vision. Sergio Marchionne stepped off the plane from Turin with a reputation for automotive resuscitation. In a twist that few could have predicted, Italian automaker Fiat emerged as Chrysler's unlikely savior. Under Marchionne's charismatic leadership, Fiat acquired a 20% stake in the bankrupt Chrysler, with options to increase ownership as certain targets were met. With limited financial resources but boundless determination, Marchionne saw potential where others saw only liabilities. The United States government, desperate to save American jobs, provided debtor-in-possession financing totaling $8 billion to support the restructuring. But the resurrection would not be easy. Marchionne faced a hollowed-out company with damaged brands, demoralized employees, and a product pipeline decimated by years of neglect. His first assessment was brutally honest. Chrysler had been run by a financial organization that didn't understand cars and didn't give a damn about products. What made this transition even more remarkable was the historical irony. Back in 1998, during the original Daimler-Chrysler formation, Fiat and Chrysler had discussed potential partnerships that never materialized. Now, 11 years later, these discussions were resurrected under the most desperate circumstances imaginable. Unlike his predecessors, Marchionne approached the challenge with humility, famously refusing the executive perks that symbolized the corporate arrogance of both Daimler and Cerberus regimes. His casual sweaters and frank communication style stood in stark contrast to the formal suits and corporate doublespeak that had characterized previous leadership. Marchionne's rescue attempt revealed deeper pathologies in American auto manufacturing. Industry autopsy: Detroit's systemic failure. The congressional hearing room fell silent as industry experts dissected the American auto industry's collapse. Beyond the specific failures of the Daimler-Chrysler merger lies a broader, more troubling pattern that continues to haunt American automobile manufacturing. The Chrysler debacle wasn't an isolated incident but part of Detroit's repeated failure to learn from history. General Motors would follow a similar path to bankruptcy just weeks after Chrysler in 2009, demonstrating that the entire American automotive ecosystem suffered from the same fundamental vulnerabilities. The bitter truth: American automakers had grown complacent during decades of dominance, failing to adapt to changing consumer preferences and global competition. While Japanese manufacturers built reputations for quality and reliability, American companies cycled through financial engineering, short-term profit maximization, and corporate restructurings that did nothing to address core product issues. Japanese manufacturers spent approximately $4,000 less per vehicle on healthcare costs, a structural disadvantage American companies failed to address. Their lean manufacturing systems proved more efficient than Detroit's outdated processes. Industry veteran Bob Lutz delivered the most scathing assessment. The American auto industry's biggest problem wasn't labor costs or Japanese competition. It was management's obsession with financial metrics over product excellence. This systemic failure to prioritize vehicle quality and consumer satisfaction created a trust deficit with American buyers that continues to this day. The Daimler-Chrysler disaster wasn't just a corporate failure. It was a revealing symptom of Detroit's deeper inability to compete in the modern automotive landscape. The Chrysler implosion sent shockwaves far beyond Detroit. The consolidation revolution. In the heart of Tokyo, Toyota's board meeting took a grim turn as executives dissected the Daimler-Chrysler post-mortem report. The catastrophic failure of the merger had sent shockwaves through the global automotive sector, forcing manufacturers to rethink their strategies regarding international partnerships. The merger's collapse fundamentally changed how companies approached consolidation, leaving behind a cautionary tale that remains influential today. Both Toyota and Honda, wary of suffering a similar fate, reinforced their commitment to organic growth rather than chasing transformative mergers. In contrast, Volkswagen took a more nuanced path by pursuing strategic acquisitions while keeping brand identities intact, sharing underlying technologies without forcing brand mergers. This contrasted sharply with Daimler-Chrysler's ill-fated integration attempt, where cultural differences and incompatible management styles led to a colossal breakdown. According to industry consultant Alex Morgan, companies became so preoccupied with avoiding another Daimler-Chrysler that they missed the looming electric vehicle revolution. This merger paranoia created gaps that innovative disruptors like Tesla exploited. When Tesla unveiled the 2012 Model S, legacy automakers were still hesitant to make major strategic shifts. Elon Musk, undeterred by industry inertia, pursued aggressive expansion, resulting in Tesla's market capitalization surpassing that of all traditional automotive giants combined. The merger's collapse also opened doors for new players. Chinese manufacturers, learning from Daimler's mistakes, adopted a more cautious international growth strategy, focusing on technology collaborations rather than outright acquisitions. Meanwhile, South Korean automakers Hyundai and Kia seized the opportunity to increase their global footprint, offering extended warranties to build consumer trust, something that Detroit's legacy automakers had long neglected. The aftermath of the merger also redefined the merger and acquisition landscape. Companies moved towards strategic alliances, technology sharing agreements, and minority investments, collaborative approaches that preserved brand identity while leveraging economies of scale. Even technology behemoths like Apple and Google, keen on entering the automotive space through software integration rather than full-scale manufacturing, took lessons from Daimler-Chrysler's failure. They recognized that automotive expertise couldn't be acquired overnight or dictated externally. The Washington intervention. In the political arena, the fallout from Daimler-Chrysler's collapse stirred intense debates. Senator Debbie Stabenow, addressing her Michigan constituents, fiercely defended the controversial auto bailout. The failed merger had sparked discussions about globalization, national industrial policy, and the risk of losing iconic American brands to foreign control. Chrysler's demise under foreign ownership fueled economic nationalist sentiments, leading to a significant policy shift. The government bailout of the auto industry in 2009 marked a dramatic change, acknowledging that some sectors held too much cultural and economic importance to be left to market forces alone. Even then, businessman Donald Trump, now president, advocated for the bailout, viewing American manufacturing as a national security priority. His administration has continued this stance, imposing tariffs to safeguard domestic automotive production and pressing foreign manufacturers to establish operations in the United States. Across the border, Canada's Prime Minister Mark Carney, who at the time was governor of the Bank of Canada, played a crucial role in maintaining the integrated North American automotive supply chain. His economic insight helped mitigate the ripple effects of Chrysler's collapse, ensuring that cross-border manufacturing remained viable. The ordeal fundamentally shifted how policymakers viewed foreign investment, with regulators worldwide scrutinizing cross-border mergers more rigorously, wary of potential threats to national economic interests. The union transformation. As factories closed and tens of thousands of jobs vanished, the United Auto Workers faced an unprecedented challenge. The fallout from the Daimler-Chrysler merger left the union at a crossroads. Ron Gettelfinger, the UAW president, walked through an abandoned assembly line, reflecting on how the union's approach had to change. Once willing to make wage concessions in exchange for job security, the union now had to rethink its strategy, particularly regarding foreign ownership. This realization marked the start of a more confrontational and proactive phase in the union's history. The pivotal moment came during Chrysler's bankruptcy in 2009. In a bold move, the UAW secured a 55% ownership stake in the reorganized company, an extraordinary level of worker control in a major American corporation. This radical shift forced the union to rethink its role, no longer just as a workforce advocate, but as a co-manager with a direct stake in the company's success. Union representatives found themselves not just negotiating contracts, but sitting on the board, grappling with business decisions that affected jobs and profitability. This dual role as both management and labor posed new challenges, but it also marked a significant transformation in how unions could operate within large corporations. The collapse of the merger extended beyond Chrysler's immediate workforce. Entire communities that relied on the automotive supply chain were devastated. Kokomo, Indiana, and Sterling Heights, Michigan, once vibrant manufacturing hubs, became symbols of economic despair. As plants closed, property values plummeted, and the local economy spiraled downward. Schools struggled with budget cuts as municipal tax bases shrank, and small businesses that once thrived on automotive industry patronage faced closure. The ripple effect of lost auto jobs left countless families in financial hardship, breaking the long-standing link between automotive manufacturing and middle-class stability. This devastation revealed the fragility of labor agreements that had long been based on trust in corporate promises. Workers who had built Chrysler vehicles for decades suddenly felt betrayed, their livelihoods sacrificed to corporate miscalculations. This collective sense of abandonment reshaped the labor movement's stance on globalization. No longer willing to place blind faith in corporate mergers, unions became more critical of international partnerships that put domestic jobs at risk. The Chrysler experience fostered a new level of skepticism towards foreign ownership, fundamentally shifting how labor unions approached future industry changes. The collapse of the Daimler-Chrysler merger left a lasting impact, not just on Chrysler, but on the entire automotive industry. As globalization continues to blur the lines of brand identity, what truly makes a car American today? Is it where it's built, the company's heritage, or the workers behind it? With unions growing more cautious and consumers questioning brand loyalty, the industry faces a new reality. What do you think? Are traditional car loyalties still relevant, or has globalization changed the game for good? Share your thoughts in the comments.